faithfulness to us. We acknowledge that you are indeed the God of all the earth. Your word tells us that unless you build a house, the laborers labor in vain. Unless you watch over the city, the watchman watches in vain. And we thank you, Father, that you watch over the great city of Chicago. And Father, as we come together today to speak of the plans to prevent crime in this city, Lord, we pray that your wisdom, your grace, your knowledge will be brought to bear. Lord, we thank you for our mayor. You say that we should pray for those in authority, and so we bring our Mayor Lightfoot, Superintendent Brown, and all the officials of this city to you. And we thank you, Father, that you will give them the grace, the wisdom, the courage, everything that they need, so that the people of this great city may know the life and prosperity that you have planned for them. So, Father, we commit this meeting to you, and we thank you for all that you will do. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to thank Pastor Toledo, Pastor Jose Figueroa, Pastor Edgar Rivas, and Pastor James Alexander for hosting us today at the church, Chicago Tabernacle. Beautiful church. As we know, the mayor is hosting numerous town halls meeting throughout Chicago. The next town hall meeting is scheduled for tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. at Truman College. We hope to see you there. And while Chicago's seeing a drop in shootings, we are still experiencing an increase in carjackings and other related crimes. And I say to everyone, people, mi gente, if you see something suspicious, call. Working together, community residents, police, and elected officials can truly make a difference. Me gustaría agradecer al Pastor Toledo, al Pastor José Figueroa y al Pastor Edgar Rivas y al Pastor James Alexander por recibirnos hoy en esta iglesia, Chicago Tabernacle. Como sabemos, la alcaldesa está organizando numerosos ayuntamientos en todo Chicago. El próximo ayuntamiento comunitario está programado para el martes, mañana, abril 5, a las 6 en Truman College. Espero verlos todos allí. Y aunque Chicago está experimentando una caída en los tiroteos, todavía experimentamos un aumento en los robos de autos y otros delitos. Personas, si ven algo, digan algo. Trabajando juntos los residentes de Chicago y la comunidad, la policía y los funcionarios electos pueden marcar la diferencia. Permíteme anunciar a la alcaldesa Lori Lightfoot.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Alderman Rebollos. And I too want to thank the pastors and the church family here at the Chicago Tabernacle. The last time I was here was a little over a year ago when we were doing a food drive to make sure that we were supporting food instability of people in the surrounding area. This is a great church that does so much, not only to help its church family, but the surrounding area. So I'm grateful that they've opened up their doors for us this afternoon. We are announcing various additional ways in which Chicagoans can join in citywide efforts to reduce violence and increase community safety in every neighborhood. And I'm joined this afternoon by Alderman Chris Taliaferro, who is the chair of our Public Safety Committee, Superintendent David Brown, along with Chief Dinahan of the Detective Division and Chief McDermott of the Patrol Division, CSCC, that's the Community Safety Coordination Center's Chief Coordination Officer Tamara Mahal, Lakeview East Executive Director Maureen Martino, BMO Harris Bank President Dave Casper, and our own Father Flager, a longstanding champion for community safety. Increasing community safety by addressing guns, gangs, and the root causes of violence is one of the city's top priorities, and you've heard me speak about this often this year. You may often hear me say that when it comes to our community safety strategy, that we are using a whole-of-government approach, leveraging the full weight of Chicago city government, resources, relationships, and expertise is a holistic and powerful way to wrap our arms around communities and make them safer. This responsibility of community safety simply cannot fall on CPD alone. That's why we stood up the Community Safety Coordination Center last August. And we know we need to be better coordinated as a city to address the various facets of community safety. And importantly, we needed to be better coordinated and in collaboration with you, our residents, and other key stakeholders across the city. And I'm very proud of the work that the CSCC has done to date to mobilize the city's resources around evidence-based and community-driven strategies to reduce violence. And yet we recognize that we have to do more, and that this work can't be done without you, our residents. The scourge of violence affects all of us, so the solution has to include all of us, and not in a one-size-fits-all approach, but one that, again, is data-driven and specific to the locale and the neighborhoods. And the folks up on the stage with me and my entire team know that we have work to do in making sure that we continue the dialogue with our residents. That's precisely why we have been hosting community safety town halls over these past few weeks to learn more from you about your specific needs and perspectives on community safety. These conversations have been critical to our collective efforts to make people feel safer because they, in fact, are safer in our neighborhoods. And as a result of this deep community collaboration, which is ongoing, today we are announcing various initiatives that will empower residents and businesses alike to increase safety. These initiatives will increase visibility on our blocks and get dangerous illegal guns out of the hands of people who use them to do harm. First, Chicagoans, homeowners, and businesses alike will be able to protect their homes and blocks by registering their existing security camera systems with the Chicago Police Department. Now, this is, of course, a totally voluntary program. But when you think about it, when something happens, detectives respond, they do a community canvass and literally go door to door to find witnesses, but also other evidence. And increasingly, videotape evidence is crucial in our crime fight. So by having existing businesses and residents register their cameras, you are literally becoming our eyes and ears. Through this registration process, police can be more targeted in the outreach that's done and quickly access necessary and important camera footage. Now, again, to be clear, registration does not mean the CPD will be able to routinely access camera footage without your prior consent. No. What this does is give us a tool that when something happens in a particular location, detectives and other police officers will know where to look to find camera footage. Registering cameras will simply streamline that process by giving detectives early information about where they can look for possible videotape evidence. Superintendent Brown will talk later about how such footage has been effective in identifying those responsible for recent crimes and aided our detectives in solving those crimes. And we know that when we are effective in catching and holding dangerous, violent people accountable, we deter future crimes and give you, residents, confidence that we are on the job. Second initiative that I want to announce today, and it's related to the first one. This will a program that we're calling Home and Business Protection Rebate Program will allow residents and small businesses to get a discount off the purchase of security cameras to protect their homes and property. So some of you have talked to us at these various community meetings and say, Mayor and Superintendent, we'd like to have a camera system. We want to have something like a Ring camera system on our homes or other security available. This is a way that we can make that happen for you and give you a substantial discount off purchasing one of those systems. This technology will create a visible crime deterrent and provide tremendous access to and assistance to CPD's investigations, undoubtedly boosting their efforts to hold criminals accountable and solve crimes much more quickly. And again, to be clear, this is a voluntary program, but if you sign up and you get the rebate, we want you to register your camera with CPD. Now, in a few moments, Tamara Mahal of the CSCC will provide further details on how this exciting new home and business protection program will work. Third initiative, I get questions from members of the business community all the time. Mayor, what can we do to show our support to the police department? One way, of course, is thank our officers. Thank them for their sacrifice and their service. Anytime you see an officer, that's critically important. They need to know that our residents have their back. But a new initiative that we are announcing here today is to fundraise for the largest gun turn-in program in Chicago's history. And I have to thank Michael Fastnock of World Business Chicago and the Chicago Police Memorial Foundation, who will be taking the lead in this effort. Through this gun turn-in program, we aim to raise $1 million through business and philanthropic partners who share our commitment around community safety. These funds will support 2 large-scale gun turn-in events and encourage residents to turn in firearms of any kind for a set monetary value. And again, let me underscore why this is so important. 90+% of our homicide victims, year in and year out, are the victims of gun violence. Last year alone, the Chicago Police Department took more than 12,000 crime guns off the street. We need to solve this problem using every single tool that we can. And we know that some of you have guns, maybe a little reluctant to turn them in, know where other guns are. We want to incentivize you to do the right thing and turn in these guns so that they don't become used in any kind of violence. We want to use this program to alleviate gun violence in our city. Further, by calling upon the business community to fuel these efforts, we are providing crucial opportunities for you to get directly involved with the city and change our narrative around gun violence. This will also send a clear message to the rest of the country that Chicago and its leaders, businesses, and residents are doing their part to step up around community safety, particularly when it comes to guns. And we already have a few companies that have committed to this effort. I want to thank BMO Harris and specifically Dave Casper, its leader, who are always ready to be great civic partners with us. I want to thank Bloomer Chocolate Factory, Cabrera Capital Markets, Motorola Solutions, and Wang Zhang America, the few companies already who have stepped up and said, yes, we will join and support this initiative. I want to express my gratitude to these companies for their leadership and support of our residents and our safety. World Business Chicago will continue to engage our business community to produce the resources that are necessary to support these gun turn-in events. And as I said, it'll be the largest in our history. Thank you again, Michael Fastnock and the WBC team. I want to also just say in closing, I hope that our residents are seeing, because the data surely supports it, that we are doing everything that we can every single day to make sure we are focused on bringing safety to all of our city. The superintendent will talk briefly about it, but we are headed in the right direction. We have seen a downturn in homicides, in shootings, and carjacking. Now, be clear, no one's taking a victory lap. It is way too early in the year for that. But because of the focus and determination about being relentless to bring safety to our neighborhoods, we are seeing progress, but more needs to be done. And these initiatives, I think, will help aid residents, give them a measure of security, and also help us take ownership of our own narrative around safety in the city of Chicago. And with that, I'm going to call up Tamara Mahal, who will tell you a little more about these rebate programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Since its inception, the Community Safety Coordination Center has been working with the communities most impacted by violence and has received direct feedback on how to reduce violence and better support our residents, businesses, block clubs, and other organizations. What we've heard is that we need a hyper-local approach that gets to every resident in every block. We've also heard directly from community that they not only want tools and resources, but that they are willing to partner with police when a crime happens to aid in holding the people who have committed those crimes accountable. That is why, in the coming months, the Community Safety Coordination Center will be launching 2 efforts to put home and business protection resources directly in the hands of residents. First, as the mayor mentioned, we will launch a citywide home and business protection rebate program to ensure that residents, business owners, property management and condo associations, and nonprofit and faith institutions have the necessary tools to protect their property. This program will reimburse eligible residents and organizations for purchase of 3 critical tools in property protection: outdoor security cameras, including doorbell cameras, outdoor motion sensor lighting, and self-installed vehicular tracking devices. Second, we will launch a program whereby residents in our most violent communities have access to the tools needed to protect their blocks and homes. The city will partner with block clubs, neighborhood associations, and community-based organizations to provide outdoor security cameras, outdoor lighting, and other resources that are needed for relationship building and to revitalize their blocks, including increased vegetation and green space, as well as home improvement tools. While we work to launch those programs, individuals who already have private security cameras and would like to assist the Chicago Police Department in crime investigations can register the location of their cameras at chicagopolice.org/camera registration. Superintendent Brown will talk more about how increasing visibility on the street at a block level and increasing cooperation with police advances accountability and reduces violent crime. But first, I want to reiterate several important points about the camera registration that the mayor made. When you register the location of your camera, you will allow the Chicago Police Department to contact you if a crime occurs on your block. CPD will not have direct access to your camera system. CPD cannot access camera footage without your consent, and there is no requirement to provide footage to CPD at any time. We are excited to be able to partner with the community and the police department on these important initiatives, and will be providing additional information on eligibility and reimbursement when they are announced. I'll now turn it over to Superintendent Brown, who will share more information on the importance of camera registration as well as the gun turn-in program. Thank you.
Thanks, Tamara. So, good afternoon to everyone. Just want to talk really briefly and mainly reiterate some of the things that Mayor Lightfoot said. We all have a part to play in our community safety, and we can all help Chicago make Chicago safer, and that's the purpose of the home security camera programs. Visibility that demonstrates our partnerships, engagement that keeps us connected, and collaborations with our community and law enforcement. I urge every resident and every business to sign up your home security camera. Video is a crucial part of solving all crimes, but particularly homicides and shootings. Let me share just 2 examples when video helped solve a burglary and a carjacking. Last November, a business owner received a call, a phone alert on his phone in the middle of the night. His video surveillance system had detected motion in his place of business. The business owner contacted police and provided them with the video. As a result, an offender was charged with a felony count of burglary, and all of the owner's items were recovered and returned to that person. In another example last year, a juvenile offender was charged with aggravated vehicular hijacking. This juvenile offender and his accomplices carjacked an individual on the residential block of the South Side. Detectives worked with a community member who had a security camera on their home. The community member provided the video to Chicago police detectives, which then captured the crime along with images of the suspect. The video in both cases were pivotal. That's why Chicago Police Department created the Area Technology Centers 3 years ago. Detectives work with these ATCs to collect and process evidence from video. Video evidence helps identify suspects. It helps officers know what occurred and when it occurred when they're not witnesses. And video helps determine charges as the Chicago Police Department works with the state's attorney's office. We often receive great community cooperation gathering video. When residents share video, it helps solve our cases quickly. But I want to be clear that sharing your camera is voluntary, and your authorization is always required for you to share that footage. The camera system is your property, and you have the right to refuse any request. Your information will not be shared with anyone, and you can also request that your information be removed at any time. The Chicago Police Department and City of Chicago will have access to your camera feed only upon your recommendation. Signing up a camera is simply sharing its location and letting us know, the Chicago Police Department, know how to contact you if a crime occurs in the area where your camera is. Detectives may contact you if an incident happens in your area if you've signed up. Residents can sign up at chicagopolice.org/camera registration. I'm going to say that one more time. Residents can sign up at chicagopolice.org/camera registration. Signing up may be the difference between offenders walking free or being held accountable. If you have any footage now, please send detectives that footage at cpdtip.com. That's cpdtip.com for any footage you currently have that shows any crimes happening. This program, as was mentioned, is another tool in our overall safety effort. It's a tool we must use and promote, just like our gun turning effort that you heard earlier from Tamara. Getting guns off the street is a top priority. In 2021, officers recovered 12,000 guns, more than New York and LA combined, and a record for the Chicago Police Department. So far this year, Chicago police officers have recovered more than 2,500 guns. But the work continues. The work is very, very dangerous to our officers. That's why our partnership with the business community is key. We all have a part to play, and we are in this together. Every business's commitment to sponsor gun turn-in impacts Chicago. Every gun turned in saves lives. An example would be for every domestic incident where there's a gun, that domestic incident is more dangerous. Every road rage incident where there's a gun in the car, that accident, that road rage is more dangerous. Every conflict, every argument where there's a gun, that conflict and that argument is more dangerous. So gun turn-ins, every gun turned in saves lives. One gun turn-in could prevent a deadly force encounter and potentially save many lives. Every gun that an officer seizes, not turned in, that they seize, is a risk to that officer's lives, risk to neighboring residents' lives. So it is a very dangerous situation when guns are added. One life saved, just one, is well worth this important effort. Together, we will enhance our city's safety to strengthen our city's future. Thank you. Pastor Father Flager, please.
Thank you, Superintendent. What an appropriate day for the city to be announcing these safety efforts to help make our community, our city, and our streets and our residents more safe. It was on today, of course, that we lost through violence, through a gun, one of our most prophetic leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who was killed on this day. I thank you, Mayor and Superintendent and all the city administration for this important initiative, particularly as we get ready to get into summer. I always, like everybody here on the stage, believe that the most important thing we do to eradicate violence is prevention and interruption. I still believe that. But we must also know that a major deterrence to violence is when there are consequences, when someone is held accountable for hurting, harming, or taking the life of somebody else. And the reality is there are still many people who are afraid to speak up for various reasons. We also know that videos and cameras have been a major tool to expose and to stop crime around this country. As the superintendent just mentioned of cases that have solved already here in Chicago, we all here know that maybe nobody would have ever known of George Floyd had it not been for a video. Video and cameras are important and they work. So for years I have believed that security cameras can help us as a resource for both people and businesses to feel safer, but also to identify illegal and violent activity that's going on in our neighborhoods and communities. Many families, many single residents, many seniors, and yes, even some businesses want security cameras, but actually can't afford it, particularly in a day when we see the prices of everything going up. Sometimes for some single mothers, it's a choice between food or getting a security camera. This rebate program will help equalize the playing field across the city. And I believe it can help us identify and catch those who continue to do acts of violence. Ending violence is very comprehensive and complex. There's many pieces to the puzzle. But I absolutely believe that the security cameras and the turn-ins of getting guns off the street are an important and valuable part to make our city safer. Thank you. Maureen?
Thank you, Father Michael Flager, for all you do for the community throughout all these years. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Maureen Martino. I am the director of the Lakeview East Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank Mayor Lightfoot for focusing on a community-driven approach to violence prevention and reduction as seen through the coordinated efforts of the Community Safety Coordination Center. Chambers of Commerce are critical organizations in our community. We are an extension of City Hall and liaisons for the business community. We work closely with city departments, including the Chicago Police Department and the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. That is why I'm here today. I want to emphasize the importance of the camera registration program. Technology is a key part of how we will move forward to best identify and make arrests in random crimes across our city and in our neighborhoods. Recently, a shooting occurred near our chamber office, and we had cameras installed in our own building. We were able to acquire that video footage. This important piece of evidence was then provided to the Chicago Police Department. This is just one example of how security cameras and a coordinated effort with the Chicago Police can help in solving and reducing crime. Like the Chamber, local businesses and the owners are crucial partners with the Chicago Police Department. Recently, a horrific crime was committed in an alley. The crime committed was captured on a security camera, and the video footage was provided to the Chicago Police to help in the investigation of this crime. Currently, the Lakeview East Chamber of Commerce uses technology to allow local businesses to share photos and videos from their security camera and to alert other business owners when crimes are being committed in and around the business. This is in real time. This allows our businesses then to be informed and to be on the lookout and warn others to be aware of criminals in our neighborhood. This is all possible because of security cameras. The camera registration program can help create a network of public safety for the city of Chicago. I encourage businesses who currently have cameras or will be installing cameras to register them by going chicagopolice.org/camera registration. The crime may not be in front of your business. However, your security camera may be in the best position to see what occurred on the public way. The city's camera registration is free and voluntary, as we all heard several times. So I want to make sure that the businesses know this. Also, because the police is not going to have direct access to your camera. You need to be giving them permission to do this. So don't think that the Business Affairs is going to be looking at the cameras out there and taking notes. It's really about making our community safe. Registering your cameras. The businesses that are out there that already have cameras should register them. This will help us find the criminals that are making havoc in our community. We need all work together. Many times we ask, what can we do to keep our business community safe? This is one step that will be vital in making the arrests needed and keeping criminals off our streets. We ask that our business communities come together to be part of the solution when it comes to making our city safe. Please register your cameras today. Thank you again to Mayor Lightfoot, and I look forward to continued collaboration. And now I welcome David Casper from BMO Financial Services.
Thank you, Maureen. The city is a great city, and one of the great things about it is our business leaders do feel a very important responsibility to support Chicago. And today is, I think, a really good example of the business community stepping up to address something that's so important, so fundamentally important to our city, and that's our safety. Getting guns off the street will help make all of our neighborhoods safer. I applaud the mayor. I applaud the superintendent. I particularly want to thank Father Flagler for lending his support and his voice to this really important effort. Speaking of the Chicago Police Department, though, I want to make something really clear. This has been an awful couple of years for all of us in many ways. And the police department and all of you in the police department have gone through real hell in many ways. I don't pretend to speak for the entire business community, but I think I do in thanking you. If I owned a billboard company, I would put up on the billboard. Thank you. Thanks for your support. Thanks for every day what you do to make us safer. And I honestly believe that you don't hear it enough, but I believe it's out there, and I really appreciate it. All of us do. We happen to have a big facility here in Chicago, and I think as a result of what you've done and what this will do, we'll feel better every day. Lastly, I want to thank Michael Fastenot and World Business Chicago for bringing this to the attention of the business community, pushing us as you do, as only you do, in a good way, and making sure that all of us really step up. And Michael, I'm sure you will do better, and if we can lend our support to get more people to support this and more companies, we are all there. So thank you very much. On behalf of all of our employees, let me say one more time, thank you. Thank you. You bet. And I am introducing Alderman Chris. Almost forgot.
Thank you, Mr. Casper. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to join Mayor Lightfoot, Superintendent Brown, and Chief Coordination Officer Mahal on this momentous day. Let me thank each of you for your continued leadership daily in fighting for the residents of this great city of Chicago. As many of you have probably, along with myself, have been watching the NCAA tournament. And one thing I've learned, I'm not a huge basketball fan. I joined the superintendent in being a huge Cowboys fan. But one of the things I've clearly seen from watching this tournament is that you have to win. You have to have some clear victories in order to get to the championship game. In order to stand on that court on this day, I believe they're playing tonight, there had to be some victories before you get to this championship game. And I believe that's very essential for us as a city as well. When we look at public safety and the fight to win our communities, is one that we have to do community by community. We have to have some wins in each and every one of our communities so that we can win as a city. And that goes along with Mayor Lightfoot was talking about a little early in her speech, that we have to do this not individually, but we have to do it unified as a city, as business owners, as seniors, as stakeholders. Through the Community Safety Center, we can work together to have a better city, to live in better communities. As I stand in this house of worship, I can't help but to remember in the book of Psalms, David envisioned working together, although in a different context. David envisioned working together, and he described it as morning dew. And as we commemorate, or not commemorate, but as we look upon the death of Dr. King on this date, Dr. King envisioned a country, a city, a community that was void of racism, that was void of violence, that stood for equality, that was void of inequities. Those are the visions of some of our great leaders that we find when we work together. But one thing I appreciate about Mayor Lightfoot is that she's taught me as chairman of public safety that it's okay to look at the visions of others, to be inspired by those visions. But one thing she's taught me and she's encouraging others to do is to find our own vision for this city, to look at how we can fight together to envision how that can change our city. So I accept that as my vision on how working in unity can build a better neighborhood, can build a better city for this great city. So I want to thank Mayor Lightfoot for her call that we all work together with these current initiatives to build a better city of Chicago. Because each and every one of us, whether you stand behind a camera or sit in the audience or sit on this stage, we all deserve a Chicago that we could be very proud of. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. It was very powerful and inspiring. Let me say two other things before I take questions from the media. You know, some may be saying, well, why are we doing a gun turn-in program? Because the criminals aren't going to turn in their guns. Maybe some will, maybe some won't. But there are two areas that I think warrant emphasis. Number one is in the case of domestic violence. We are seeing an exploding increase in domestic violence. I think there's never a week that goes by where we're not seeing a situation where luckily most of them end with a person turning themselves in or being arrested by CPD, but invariably there's a gun involved. That's a perfect situation that if we remove that gun from that house, the situation, whatever it is, immediately de-escalates and victims are not living in mortal fear of what could happen next. The other area that I would say that's really important to think about is guns in homes that are unsecured. Every single year, children are lost because they picked up a gun in some place in the house that they knew about, that they saw, and invariably it ends in horrible tragedy. They either shoot themselves, shoot somebody else in the household. This is a terrible thing, and it all revolves around unsecured guns in homes. So I'm hoping that people who are listening and will hear about this gun turn-in program will think about that. Are there unsecured guns in your home? Is there a gun in your home where there's a volatile situation or where there's somebody with mental health challenges that shouldn't have access to a gun? Whatever the scenario is, I hope that this will prick your consciousness and really cause you to think and then act. And the action is turn in that gun. So 3 things that we talked about today. Registration of existing cameras, critically important. We just want to know where the cameras are to speed the police department's ability to investigate a serious crime and whether there's videotape evidence that might be helpful. A rebate program. If you've been wanting to get a camera for your home, for your business, but haven't taken the step, or if money has been a prohibition, this is the time to step up. And if you're like me, not so handy with the tools, but want to take advantage of this, we can help you with that as well. Don't yet let the installation be the reason that you don't take advantage of the rebate program. And with that, I'm happy to take your questions.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. 2 questions per reporter. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll kick off with Amy Jacobson, 560 AM.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Good to see you.
So you mentioned this $1 million gun buyback plan. Exactly how is it going to work? And our local businesses like BMO Harris Bank, are they kicking in cash? for this program?
Yes. The companies that I listed, BMO being one of them, Blommer's Chocolate, Motorola Solutions, and others have already made a specific commitment. And the idea will be we'll stand up the program, we'll have a website, we're going to have 2 specific events where people can bring the guns that they want to turn in, no questions asked, and then they will receive a cash compensation for turning that in.
And how much cash are we talking?
I don't have the specific details, but we can certainly get that to you.
You mentioned yesterday at a youth summit that juvenile carjackers feel unloved. So what is the city's role in providing love to the unloved kids committing violent crimes?
Well, I said a number of things, one of which was about love, but let me make sure that the context is set. While we have seen a downturn in the number of carjackings this year, which is a good and positive thing, we've seen an increase in a number of juveniles who are participating in carjackings, and that's a serious thing. And I believe that those young people are in crisis. From the anecdotal evidence that we've seen, many of these young people had no prior involvement in the criminal justice system, but this has become a thing. And unfortunately, what our police department is seeing, and Chief Denahan can attest to this, is when we arrest a child for carjacking, a teenager, preteen, in many instances, they have 3, 4, 5 cases. So what we know is that there's not sufficient intervention that's happening. And I think Father Mike has got it right. We all need to be focused on prevention, from making sure the crimes don't happen in the first instance, but when they do, we've got to take the appropriate steps to make sure there's accountability. And I'm not talking about locking people up, and certainly not teens and children, locking them up and throwing away the key, but we have a number of different programs in the neighborhoods to provide support for those who have strayed, but also, frankly, to hopefully get the other young people that haven't picked up a gun or engaged in criminal activity involved in positive opportunities, whether it's at the parks, whether it's at school, libraries, after-school programs, the faith community. There's a wide array of resources at the neighborhood level that are available for our young people, and we need to make sure that we continue to expand those opportunities as we have and will continue to do. Summer job programs are now starting to open up registration, but we've got to reach those young people where they are, and particularly those young people, we've done a particular focus on the kids that are in our option schools to make sure that those young people understand that there are opportunities for them other than engaging in criminal activity. So I think this is a classic circumstance where it takes a village. And of course, love has got to be a part of it. Love, support, tough love, whatever it takes to turn around the lives of these young people, to hold them accountable, but also make them accountable to themselves. And that's the challenge. A lot of the young people that I have encountered over my lifetime who have been engaged in criminal activity, if you trace back through their history, what you're going to find is the absence or the lack of positive adult role models in their lives. And we've got to make sure that we change that around. Obviously, the kids that are sticking a gun in somebody's face, they have to have accountability. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And unfortunately, we're not getting that with the current criminal justice system. We can't have kids have 4 or 5 pending cases without any consequences. And part of the consequences have to be intervening. I told the story on Saturday at the youth town hall of the 11-year-old who was a notorious case. Many of you in the media covered it last fall, who was a leader of a carjacking crew. And what we know about that young boy, and he's still a boy, is that his life was disintegrating. His mother died, his father's gravely ill, and he was literally floating without any kind of safety net. And he got lured into engaging in these carjackings. But since we've intervened, and I really have to credit CPS, not only has he not missed a day of school, he's got a mentor who is looking out for him every single day, and he recently made the honor roll. That's a remarkable turnaround. And the lesson for me is if we reach these kids and we provide them with the right level of supports, if we make sure that they understand the consequences of their actions and how them pulling a gun on somebody completely turn around someone's life and victimizes them, but we provide them with supports to get them back on track, then we can truly save hearts and minds in this city.
Tamon Bradley, WGN.
Thanks. Hi, Mayor. Two questions from my colleagues and one from Heather Sharon, if we can. Is there anything more you can share about the Saturday night shooting in Lakeview where a woman was inside a bar, grazed in her torso? There have been a couple of shootings recently in Lakeview. Any reason to think they're connected? Are you stepping up patrols?
Well, I'm going to invite the superintendent, or Chief Dinahan, to respond to the particulars there.
Thank you.
It's under investigation. We can get offline with you for a particular update, but I could just tell you, just to reiterate what the mayor says, shootings are down 12% so far this year. Not enough. Obviously, one is one too many, but we're making progress on reducing shootings, but we'll give you the particulars on that one, as well as reducing homicides, which are down 5%. Again, not enough. One is one too many. Chief Dinahan will get with you offline and give you the details of that particular shooting. Was the second question for me or for the mayor?
For the mayor.
Okay.
So the city issued $89 million in speed camera tickets in 2021. 57 million of that was for the lower 6 to 10 miles per hour ticket of $35. Mm-hmm. The top two areas, which collected nearly 7 million alone, are on the south side of the city. With traffic now back to pre-pandemic levels, will you do away with the $35 tickets?
No, and the reason is because what we also saw, which you didn't mention in your recitation, is a significant increase in traffic accidents, injuries, and fatalities. So we, before we took advantage of the 6 mile an hour and up, which the council had approved, I think back in 2017 or 2018, we saw this data which showed a significant uptick in the amount of accidents that were happening. We didn't see a downturn in 2021, and you're right, more people on the road, but unfortunately, because we are now coming back, schools are in session, parks are being used, all the more reason why we have to continue to be diligent to make sure that people are abiding by the traffic laws so that we can keep people safe.
And from Heather, sorry everybody, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability.
You're the poll reporter today.
It seems like it. This isn't even what I'm interested in. The Civilian Office of Police Accountability announced today that the SWAT team officer who shot and killed a man yesterday on the southwest side was not equipped with a body-worn camera. 20 months ago, another officer who was not equipped with a body-worn camera shot a man, and Mayor, you said that was, quote, highly, highly problematic, and that we can't have people out on the street interfacing with the public without body cameras. Why do all Chicago police officers still not have body-worn cameras?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but I stand by what I said before. We have to have officers who are interfacing with the public have body-worn cameras. That's under investigation right now, so obviously I won't comment any further, but we've got to have people with body-worn cameras. We've significantly increased the purchase of those body-worn cameras, and so we've got to make sure that everybody who's out there on the street and certainly interacting with the public has a body-worn camera.
Charlie, NBC.
Thanks, Cesar. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
A couple of things. First of all, the city's already got a program whereby you can register your video camera, your security camera with the police. Can someone tell us how well that's been going so far, what the uptake rate has been, and was there ever any consideration going to systems like Aurora uses, the Ring cameras, whereby police can automatically tap into the account that the camera is on so they can watch those cameras more or less in real time?
So I'll start and then I'll invite Tamara Mahal to come up. This is an opportunity for us, frankly, to reemphasize the need to get these cameras registered. You're right, there had been some prior efforts, but we really want to focus now like a laser beam, not just on business cameras, which is what I think you're primarily referring to, but also residential cameras. So that's really part of this effort. And the second part of your question is about?
Yeah, in Aurora, they've got a system that's kind of based on the Ring cameras.
Yeah, you know,
it's automatic.
We want to make sure that this is voluntary and that people understand that if they register their cameras, whether it's through the registration initiative that we announced today, or if they're getting a rebate, that registration is voluntary, and that anytime we want to access it, we're going to come to residents or business owners and ask for access. I'm frankly not comfortable with the idea that we're just going to tap into those cameras automatically, even if the technology would allow us to do that. We've got to win the confidence and the faith of our residents and not have a Big Brother-esque camera system. But obviously, the video cameras and that footage is really important. So many crimes have been solved over this last year alone because we've been able to tap into residential video or business video at the owners with the owner's consent. This will just speed up that process. If we've already got a network of registrations already, detectives will know exactly where to go. And Tamara, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Hi, Charlie. I think the program you're referencing is Smart 911, which is operated by the city's Office of Emergency Management and Communications. I don't have the specific numbers for you today, but I will say Smart 911 is an incredibly important and vital program for this city that allows city residents to identify a slew of information that could be critical in the event of a disaster and making sure that we can get information to you. We encourage everyone to continue going there and registering. Camera registration is one part of that multifaceted program, but we're so dedicated to that even on the chicagopolice.org camera registration site, you'll see at the bottom a link to go to Smart 911 and complete your registration. We also just wanted to make sure we could streamline that process so that people who are just choosing to provide camera information could do so in a quick online form. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Tamara. I also saw that it's up and running. That's very good. Second question from our dear Mary Ann Ahern, who asks, there is a report today that General Iron may be looking at a location in Lincoln Park. Mayor, what do you think about General Iron perhaps relocating its plans to Lincoln Park?
Well, more importantly, I think, what do the residents of Lincoln Park think about that? I don't see that as a possibility. Obviously, General Iron had a long checkered history in Lincoln Park. I think people in that neighborhood have expressed themselves quite clearly. So I don't see that as a real viable option, but I don't know any of the particulars.
Dane Placco, Fox.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi there.
I'm wondering whether anybody's looked at the distribution of these private camera systems across the city. Are there neighborhoods that have higher concentrations than other neighborhoods? And is there, if so, any correlation between where these crimes are being committed?
I don't know the specifics. Again, Tamara may know it because she and her team have been studying this. But yeah, of course there are areas of the city that have more cameras in them than not, which is part of the reason why we want to provide homeowners with an opportunity to get cameras through this rebate system, particularly in areas that we've seen a long history of violent crime. Those are the very areas that we would be very interested in helping homeowners get access to a variety of different options, whether it's motion detectors or other kinds of lights, the doorbell lights as well. And we don't want cost to be an impediment. And as I said before, if you're not handy with the screwdriver, we can help you with that as well. Tamara, I don't know if you want to add to that.
I will say that one of the reasons we're encouraging people to identify and register their cameras is so we can have a better understanding of where cameras exist throughout the city in terms of private residences and others. But also to bring awareness to the fact that if you have a camera and letting us know certainly helps us to solve crimes, but also actually tells us where there aren't cameras, so we can go out and do specific and targeted supports. I think it's really important that we reiterate the amount of engagement the Community Safety Coordination Center has done around cameras, and what we consistently hear when we meet with block club leaders, community-based organizations, neighborhood associations, is that more people would have these if they had financial assistance, because specifically even a doorbell camera can cost upwards of $200 just for that one camera. And so we're hoping to learn more about where things are, but because of engagement efforts, know that this is a needed resource for those, especially in our most vulnerable communities.
My second question involves the gun buyback program. As you might know, there have been a number of studies that have shown that a lot of times when they do these programs, people turn in old guns or broken guns or guns that weren't even really in any way being used to commit crimes. Is there a way to target this program a little bit more so that you're getting the guns off the street that criminals are currently using?
Well, look, our Chicago Police Department, the men and women put themselves at risk every single day to do just that. There's a reason why we got to 12,000 guns, illegal guns taken off the street last year, is because there's a huge focus year in and year out, and this year's no different, to get those illegal guns off the street. But as the superintendent said, if one gun is taken off the street, that saves one life, it's well worth it. It's absolutely well worth it in making that kind of investment, because all it takes is one gun, one bullet to completely change the trajectory of many lives. The shooter, the person who's hit, the community that feels unsafe. So we're trying to use every single tool in our toolkit, this being one of them, to make sure that we heighten the awareness. And as I said, what I'm particularly focused on is the instances where there's gun in homes that are unsecured and they become a risk to children and others in the home, or in a circumstance where there's violence, domestic violence going on, and then you add to that a gun. And, you know, I don't have to remind you, but I will. The two officers that were tragically killed earlier this year in New York City, they were responding to a domestic violence call for service. That is a huge, dangerous circumstance that our officers face. You take the gun out of that equation, you lower the temperature, and it makes a huge difference. So we're going to be focused in particular on those aspects when we think about the gun turn-in program.
Mayor, we'll go to the back with Andy Grimm sometimes.
Yes. You said you didn't have specifics about the rebate program. How much have you budgeted overall for it? If you can't say, like, how much the rebates will be. And again, how will you make sure that it is
I said
folks?
I didn't, but Tamara does.
Oh, if Tamara knows.
So let me have Tamara come up, and she can give you specifics.
In terms of the specific rebates, we are going to announce more extensive program details, but as of right now, you'll be eligible for up to $225 per camera for a total of $450 at your home. That means that if you would like to purchase a $50 camera, you could purchase multiple. We know of a lot of associations and other places that have multiple entrances. You'll also be eligible for certain subscription costs for the first year of cloud-based subscription. For lighting, you'll be eligible. We'll have to get you the specific details. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting them in my head right now. But we will. For lighting, you'll be eligible for up to $100 per light. And then for vehicular tracking devices, you'll be eligible for up to $50 per device, and then up to 1 year subscription costs for cloud-based subscriptions as well. The city has budgeted between the rebate program as well as our other mechanism to hand out cameras that I talked about, around $5.3 million for this through 2024.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you, Mayor. That's a wrap, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.